What's up, everybody? It's Ron Raphael. I am coming to you once again from one of my favorite places in the entire world, and you know that music is life for me, man. And that's why I always start the show with music, the frequency, the universal frequency. And when I say universal, I mean acceptable and understood through mathematics and frequencies throughout the entire universe. Man, today I talk to you about a subject. Okay, there we are. My rookie mistake is solved this time. Normally when I come on, it is an experiment in a number of things that I miss. But today I think I've solved the visual problem. The one we're listening to is a young man by the name of Thunderstorm Artiste. He's from Hawaii, and his music is very, very soulful, very beautiful, very rich. But I thought it would be an excellent choice for the subject matter today. A young man that is extremely talented, that has made it to his purpose, which is music. His name is Thunderstorm Artiste. Now today, I come to you, it's been just a little bit of time, but I'm glad I'm back, and I'm glad you're here along with me for this subject of today, which is the discussion, as the thumbnail suggests. Students, suicide, and the rate obviously going up. And it falls under the legend that I have here, which is what I follow when I speak to everyone and anyone about life in general. Everything falls under this. So it is by not any mistake that I discuss this topic today, because of this structure that I use for my life and that I use for talking to people about theirs and what's important to them. And we often talk about number one, which is spirituality, number two, health, number three, and recently I've delved into the fourth, which is appearance value. And there's a piece coming up about that this week or next week, about appearance value and how important it was. And I didn't know that it was. And the depth of what that number four means, appearance value, how you present yourself to the world. However, what we're looking at here is number three again today. Well, two, health, pardon me. We often talk about it, or I even mention it in The Legacy of Learning, the novel that gives you step-by-step instructions towards your intellectual prowess and then onto your purpose. It's mentioned in there, but it's not mentioned in the realm of mental health. And I neglected to do that. And for that, I humbly apologize. When I start looking into the numbers, I heard some information recently that I was privy to, because I watch YouTube, and it was about a gentleman by the name of Medium Man. He is a black YouTube content creator, and he focuses on the black male experience, and especially the portions of our wholeness and our mental health. And in a particular stream, he talked about the mental health concerns of black people and contrasting the male and the female side of it. But that's not what discussion is about. He prompted me to this discussion, and I thought about it for a moment, mental health. And I was also, my attention was distracted by something else recently, and it mentioned something about suicide. So I said, you know what? These two things are intimately connected: health, mental health, and suicide, because as your mental health degrades, so does the possibility of suicide increasing. And that's why I come to you to talk today, not just about health, but about mental health and students and suicide. And the information I found was alarming, and it was just as easy as a query on the internet. And what I found was an institution called JED, the JED Institution. The JED Institution, JED, first of all, is not an acronym. It is a name of a young man who had taken his life many years ago, and a family that started the foundation was because of his death. His mother and his father. The story of JED is what I'm referring to. And this is his mother and his father. And they started this foundation in 1998, some odd 20 some odd years ago, 25 coming up on, if not here already. And it's connected to this young man. So they have dedicated their purpose as a family to that of JED. And JED has been funneling or fueling this foundation for 25 years. Now, why I bring this up and tell you this story is because the context is important. There are people that have been affected by suicide and the deaths of young people through this way of death. And they live it every day after that point. But who doesn't know about it? Primarily young folks. And you would think that the leading cause of death may be something, the second leading cause of death may be something else. But it is suicide. Now let's read some of this information here, because I'm not what you would say speaking without some form of reference. Mental health challenges are a growing concern for teens and young adults. Suicide rates among young people have also increased over the past decade. Now, what does that mean? Let's really talk about it. Mental health statistics. 12.6 million people between the ages of 18 and 25 experienced a mental, behavioral, or emotional health issue in the past year. So in 2024, 12.6 million young people have had mental health issues. Now, these can come from a plethora of situations. If you're in a socioeconomically deprived scenario and you're being raised in the hood, you can lump a bunch of other concerns that may cause health concerns, mental health concerns. But generally speaking, about 12.6 million experienced this type. And these are numbers that are reported of those that they can talk to. Now, where I'm from, I'm sure the numbers are very much underrated, exposed. They are much higher. And 19.5% of teens ages 12 to 17 had a major depression episode in the past year. 42% of all high school students have reported feelings of sadness, hopelessness in the past year. And the percentages are higher amongst females, 57%. And multiracial students, 49%, and lesbian and gay, bisexual students, 69%. And those numbers are understandable based on their experiences, the way they are ostracized from society. So these are some of the numbers as it pertains to suicide. And as a result of all of this, suicide is the second leading cause of death in the United States amongst individuals 18, well, the numbers are actually wider than that, 10 to 24. So that's you as a student. Parents, those are the young people around you that we tend to guide, instruct. However, rarely do we tap into or become sensitive to their mental and emotional state. Who are they and what are they going through? So that is the harsh reality. but it's something we don't talk about often. Now, in this study here, which is offered to us by the University of Georgia and by a student named Michael Curtis. I'm sure he's not a student anymore. He's graduated, and I congratulate him. It's one of the things I really get a kick out of is watching people succeed. He succeeded with his career, academic career, and I'm sure he's moved on to a professional career that will show him where he should be in life, and hopefully this is his purpose. If not, I wish him the best. But the information contained in this article supports exactly what we said. But it also delves deeper into the socioeconomic or racial aspect of suicide. People that look like me. We already know that students are affected because they're part of that adolescence number. The 10 to 24, the 18 through 24. These are college students as well, and there are a great number of college students that go through depression. Who are they? What is my life going to be like? All these academic pressures, some of them extremely hefty because of the expectations placed on ourselves and by our families. And we dive into deep, dark holes, and sometimes mental health is not just a concern, it is the extreme version of it, which is suicide. And new studies suggest racism, childhood trauma may be a blame for suicidal thoughts among African American students. Childhood trauma, racism take a heavy toll on young black men's mental health. And as a result of this, with inside of our own demographic between women and men, young women and men, inside of the African American community, the rates of suicide for men are 4 times that of the female counterpart around them. Black men are killing themselves 4 times the rate of their female feminine counterparts. And it's very sad to hear and very sad to say. And part of my purpose is not only to obviously help you get to your purpose and help people realize the potential in themselves, but is also to help people navigate that process. And learning about this mental health concern and the 4 times rate amongst black young men really broke my heart. But it stands to reason. I'm no longer a young black man, but I was a young black man, and I went through so much. The fact that you realize at some point very early in your journey that in this country, you are lesser than. That's how it's set up. This is not a philosophical or a somewhat radical statement coming from a black radical. It is the system that was created that we were born into. That's never addressed. 2, what we are expected to be inside of our communities and constantly blamed for the problems that we cannot solve that have nothing to do with us. Everything in the black community is projected upon the black male and our so-called somewhat deficiencies. Never mind the entire universe that has been created for us to fail inside of. That universe, including feminism and our women being driven to only figure out how to make us their problem, no matter how much work we do, no matter how much we progress. And those numbers are also stated and easily researchable. Black men are 51% and higher that are single, educated, in the middle class, and childless. But these numbers are never perpetuated nor highlighted. They never say that 17% of the children that are being fathered or sired with inside of the community, not 17%, but of the 80% of women that are having children outside of wedlock, they're having children with roughly 17% of the male population, black male population, and outside of it as well. So the numbers are always hidden from us, but the blame is also and constantly associated to and with us. Socioeconomics, the system that makes sure that no matter how educated you become, there's someone less educated that is your counterpart that is heralded, that is put in positions of power above you. I cannot tell you how many people that are supposedly supposed to be higher ranking in me in a situation of work that were complete idiots and only placed there because of privilege. All these things play a part on the mental health concerns for black men, in addition to all of the basic concerns that all youth face. So that's what this conversation needs to be about for us in our community. How do we get them aware of this, young people in particular? And that's one of the main concerns and why I bring it up today, for the awareness of it. Because without that awareness, where do we go? And young people have so much more to think about, their process and progress in life. And there are things we aren't taught. But I think this is a conversation that we need to have constantly and visited as a community, as institutions of learning, counselors, and academians, as they do their job. This needs to be at the forefront. Why? Because outside of accidental death or self-inflicted harm amongst young people, obviously, because if you're young, health concerns cannot be the number one cause of death. That's what youth suggests. And it does make sense that the second leading cause of death would be suicide, as sad as it may be. Moving on to a couple of other studies that I'd like to share with you. This particular one references black boys, men, and suicide. And it's a study offered and presented by Patrice and DeAngelis. She is a psychologist by designation and a licensed marriage and family therapist. And we'll talk a little bit about the numbers in regards to the availability of these professionals to our communities and how many there are by demographic. But in her report here is to not only give a brief snapshot of the numbers, but to talk about some of the intervention options that are available. Now, for me, if you're doing intervention, it is way too late. It's something we're not thinking about, we should have been thinking about, and we have basically failed our younger community if we're at the point of intervention. Where we should be is where I am here, is in prevention. So let's talk about prevention before intervention has to be addressed. So that's what this is about. And what her highlights are is that the facts are about boys and suicide. Self-reported suicide attempts for black adolescents rose by 73% in the last, from 1991 to 2017. So in the past 25, 30 years. Black boys increasingly are likely to attempt suicide than black girls who have more ideations of it. In other words, black girls compared to black boys think about suicide more. They attempt it more. However, black boys are more successful to a rate of 4 times the amount of black females. Black boys are engaging in more lethal means when attempting suicide, and that's why they're more successful at it. When black young boys decide to kill themselves, they reach for a gun. Let's just be straight up with it. It's not a pill. It's not a slitting of, it's not for attention. You know what I mean? It's not something to say, hey, look at me, I might be attempting suicide and give me some attention. It's not for attention. When black boys attempt suicide, they mean it. And they do it in a very end stage way. They reach for a gun. Facts about black men and suicide. In 2014, 80% of suicide deaths in black community were black men. So all this stuff about we're killing each other, it's just to highlight something, just to have a point to basically counteract other arguments, which is the argument of we are being killed in the streets by police and white people that don't look like us at an astronomical rate. So then they say, what about you killing yourselves? All it is just a gaslighting tactic to remove the blame or the focus off of people that are killing us at an exponential rate. The facts about homicide, intra-community homicide is actually pretty straightforward and logical. People kill the people that are around them. It's same for all ethnicities, all races. White people kill more white people because they live around each other and they kill each other. No one's talking about white on white crime or white on white murder. If you go to India, guess who are killing each other? Indian people. So it is ridiculous to place a litmus test on black people for killing ourselves that is basically the same across demographics and across race. Okay? That being said, we completely neglect the number one cause of death in regards to homicide or, violence. It is suicide. We are killing ourselves more than we're killing each other. But that's okay because it's not part of some ridiculous argument to somehow justify what white people are doing to us. We should be concentrating on suicide if we're concerned about the mortality rate of our youth in our communities. So if we're really concerned, why aren't we talking about suicide? That's the point I wanted to make there. So it says here, recent research has observed that Caribbean black men, this is another thing that stood out for me, that Caribbean black men in the U.S. have the highest attempt rate for the African American community, and that's in regards to suicide, obviously. That caught me completely by surprise. And let me tell you why it was important. Do I need to say it again? I'm Trinidadian. I'm from Trinidad and Tobago. So I am that guy. I'm from the Caribbean. And lo and behold, I've been going through so much bullshit in this country simply because I came here with a high self-esteem of myself, associated to a country that is only black. How do you develop a racial construct that helps this country keep you underneath if you didn't come from here? I'm not from here. I come from where black people run shit. So when I come here, I had a self-esteem that was too high for this country. And trust me, any black man who thinks too highly of himself will be taught a lesson. And that lesson I've been taught throughout my entire life. Who the hell do I think I am? By having an opinion, knowing where I come from, knowing that if you put me up against anyone, including the people that look like me, that I will shine, and I will never cower or reduce myself amongst anyone. And that I do think and believe is the main source. We know who we are, and this country, America, United States, constantly reminds us that, hold on, who the hell do you think you are? Not kissing the white people's asses here. And that's the problem we have. We know how good we are. We haven't bought into the bullshit here about we are inferior. No, we're not. We actually are superior genetically, and we know it. And not only do we know it, we express it and we show it in our everyday walk of life. And when things do not line up with that understanding in this country, it causes us mental concerns, mental grief. Even to this day, I face it. I can't have an interview or a conversation with someone that somehow tries to pull some bullshit in a conversation in which I have to check them. Most black people wouldn't. And I think it's because where I'm from. I'm not from the United States. I haven't bought into this crap. I fight against it every day. The reason why you see me here talking to you on the legacy of learning is because I understand the power of becoming your own person through intellectual exercise, making your mind a machine, a muscle that you can use throughout your life. And that doesn't work well if you're trying to subjugate a people and try to keep them down and under. It actually works against that. And that's what I'm about. You not becoming part of the cog, a cog that's part of this machine that helps them diminish you. Find your purpose, who you're supposed to be. And that's what the legacy of learning is. And if you don't need it, find a young person, because this will instill that type of belief and self-esteem in yourself as a person, especially as black youth and especially as a black young man. You're going to need it. And then we're going to need each other, because this country will not reward you, so get ready for it. In fact, they will work vehemently to tell you that you aren't shit as you progress and you move forward, knowing that you are exactly who they say you are not. You are God. They will gaslight you. He lives in you. We are a reflection of him. I rant, I go on, but it is important for me to have these conversations, and especially this talk when I talk to people that look like me. Everyone else can listen, as I say. So let's move on. We're going to wrap this up a little bit. So yeah, her study. And that particular thing stood out to me, and boy, it came home. Firearms were the predominant, as we said before, method of suicide amongst African Americans, regardless of sex or age. Suffocation was the second most prevalent method. I mean, how would you suffocate yourself? I mean, wow, what a dark subject. What just a dark satanic thing to be talking about suicide, because God does not reward it. It is actually one of the main top sins that God looks down upon, which is suicide. So typical signs of suicide. Let's move on to this side, because I'm not in the mode of prevention, even though we need to talk about intervention. We need to talk about prevention. So as a community, we need to be aware of it. So typical signs of suicide, talking about it. And let me just say this right away. I have guns around me. I'm an elderly man. I'm in my 50s, not elderly, but you know, I'm up there. And I've been through a lot. Never have I once contemplated suicide. So just to tell you about me. So it's not a cry out for help. Oftentimes, though, something like this can be. And if people are talking about it, that is a damn sure sign of suicide or concern of it. The other thing is, if they say I'm going to kill myself, I'm thinking about it. Okay, I mean, you gotta be a dumbass not to realize that one. But getting the means to take your own life, such as buying a gun or something like that, what people would do, are withdrawing from social contact and wanting to be left alone. Now, I've experienced all this stuff, man, in a number of ways. Even in my 50s, I've been in these situations, because being a black man in this country gets harder and harder. It doesn't get easier as you get older. And you know what I mean? And we try to find ways to blame ourselves, but we know that there's a whole mechanism working to keep us in this state of mind. Having mood swings, such as being emotionally high one day and then deeply discouraged the next. Being preoccupied with death. Feeling trapped or hopeless about a situation. Now, that's something you feel internally. But there are things you can ascertain from the outside looking at someone. For instance, the increased use of alcohol or drugs, changing their normal routine, including eating or sleeping patterns, not working out, not hanging out with friends, doing risky or self-destructive things, such as speeding on a motorcycle, just not caring for your life in a number of ways, doing dangerous things, giving away. And I've done that on a motorcycle. And I've been riding bikes for many years, so I know these things, man. Giving away belongings or getting affairs in order when there's no logical explanation for it. That's very clear. They start giving away things of value. Saying goodbye to people, but not just catch you later, but goodbye. As if it is something that won't happen again. I won't get a chance to say, peace out, catch you later. Whatever the saying is, bobbing your head when you're out, I'm out. But saying goodbye. If someone says goodbye to you and they're your friend, air should pop up and you should not let a day go by without talking to them. In fact, I wouldn't let them out of my sight for a little bit if I heard someone say goodbye to me that normally would never say anything like that. Developing personality changes or being severely anxious or agitated, particularly when experiencing some of the warning signs listed above. In other words, combining warning signs with behavior is also something you should look out for. So help prevent, not intervene. You don't want to show up when they have the gun in their hands. You want to notice signs that may be leading them towards that mental health situations. Suicide is not a concern yet. This is where we need to hone in and calibrate our sensibility for people. That's why we should be spending time with people, and people should be one of our main focuses in life, because life is about people. And when you care about people, you can become in tune with their bio, universe and how they move. And if there's a change in it, you may want to say, hey man, let's go grab a beer. You seem pretty down. What's up with you? Give them an elbow, a bump, and you guys hang out for a minute, or go do something, or let's go work out. You guys like playing tennis? Man, sports and physical exertion is one of the main, methods of relieving stress. So do that as a group. Do it by yourself. Do it with friends. And if someone's down, take them along an activity with you, man. Take them to the arcade. Do something with that person, and that will increase their blood rate and get them going and bring them back over to the side where they know they can possibly make it to the next day. And that's all we need, especially people going through mental health scenarios. Sometimes they need not intervention. That's too late. We need prevention. We need to get to them and talk to people and be a friend to someone that needs to be befriended, especially during these times. And the word of the day as a result of all of this is paucity. The reason why I chose paucity is because the mental health apparatus for basically, the practitioners is extremely skewed in the side or on the side of women, as if men don't go through mental problems. The vast majority of all mental health practitioners, whether it be psychologists, psychiatrists, or LMFTs, licensed marriage and family therapists. I always have a little trouble with that acronym. The vast majority of those fields are made up of women. Men don't need help. Men are rough rogue bears, as they say. And who cares about them? And do they go through mental shit? And if they do, get over it, handle it. You're men. And that's how the world treats men, and that's how women treat men. But when it comes to their mental health, oh my God, it's something that needs to be taken care of. And we need to go to school to learn how to help them. And that's why these fields are completely overran with women. And as you get to the statistics for the African American community, it is extremely dismal. These numbers you can look up yourself. So I said that to say the availability of mental health professionals overall for men is reflected in paucity, the presence of something only in small amounts. So the word of the day, as we always add, as I always do, something for us to learn and take away and use in life as a tool. And you'll be surprised as you expand your vocabulary, you expand your universe. Remember that it's not just to be smart, it's to words encapsulate a universe. And studies have shown this. The studies of language are completely forthwith with this understanding. The bigger your vocabulary, the bigger your universe, and vice versa. So that's why I always throw a word in to add to our intellectual growth. So it does not exist. The numbers are crazy, right? And the numbers come up to something extremely dismal for black folk. And in our community, you can look this up, out of all the practitioners in the United States, psychiatrists, psychologists, LMFTs, people that are professionals that are geared to helping us get through mental health problems, working them out and getting back to whole again. The black community only comprises 7% of that 100% of all practitioners. Yes, only 7%. And I had to check that across a number of studies to find out, was this true? Am I getting something wrong? And no, not only are our numbers extremely dismal, of that 7%, 92%, pardon me, are women. Yes, of the 7% of all practitioners in this country that are healthcare professionals, 7% are of African American descent. Of that small 7%, 92% are women and 8% are men. Wow, I thought. No wonder when I sought out help from all my childhood trauma that was inflicted by basically a sick woman. I was raised by a sick woman. And I had to work through these concerns all alone throughout my entire life. Because why? Black women are infallible. They do no wrong. And if you're a child and you've gone through trauma with a mother, not only are you trapped by that trauma, no one wants to hear it because you have to be wrong in order for her to be right. And we know that they're never wrong, as a result, never sorry. And when information is presented about them that sheds light on what is really happening, the truth, they turn it around and somehow become the victim. The biggest response you get from black women in regards to how they raise their children, boys in particular, is, I tried my best. Well, let me tell you something. If you already hate men, your best is the worst thing you can ever do to a black boy. I went through this stuff with a mother that was abusive physically. I was neglected, left home a lot by myself. She wouldn't have done that to a girl. I was a latchkey kid in New York. I came home by myself with a key at the ages of 7 and 8 years old, very young. Yes, I had some babysitters supposed to check in on me. Guess who it was? A woman, a young lady who didn't do her job. So I was often by myself and without the developmental stages of the right people at the right places. I suffered. And till this day, I have these types of concerns. Like, for instance, how I eat is because there wasn't much around, so I don't really trouble food. I love to eat, but my physiology responds to how much I eat. I've always been a slim guy and stayed that way, genetically too, in my family. But there are a couple of us that got overweight and fat. But me, because in my early years of my life, I was neglected. and food was one of the things that wasn't on the table, so to speak. And these things play out throughout your entire life. And eventually, when I got to a point when I had to speak to this woman, she told me, look at the age you are, you get over it. She did not care at all. I share this because we often hear statistics and numbers, but when you put a real life face and a person to it, it brings it home. When I did eventually seek out, and this is where I am, medical health professionals, the road to finding someone who first of all cared, it was 90 some odd percent every contact available through my PPO, my healthcare organization, was for women. So if you're in a PPO, for example, a healthcare organization, there are organizations they send you to. You can't simply find your own healthcare professional, your own psychiatrist, psychologist, LMFD. You have to go through the people in their network. So I was trapped inside of a PPO HMO network in which only maybe 1 or 2% of all the practitioners were male, and a fraction of that small percentage were men that looked like me, if at all. I had to leave the PPO to find black people, men that looked like me, and even those numbers were dismal and far and few between. And a fraction of those men were gay men. So the term paucity strictly applies. The presence of something only in small amounts. For black men, we have nowhere to go. It is only us, your friends, your partners that we can talk to. So black men, as much as we are supposed to be so strong, you know, tap into the homie, man. See if he's doing okay. It doesn't have to be on some feminine stuff. It could just be, how you doing, man? What's up? Man, let's have a drink. Let's smoke a cigar. That is therapy in and of itself. Men talk to each other, man. Have someone you sound off on, someone that can hear you out, and vice versa. It doesn't have to be a bunch of people. It can be just one. Older guys, man, do that for youth. Young men, we're here for you. You know what I mean? And if you need to reach out to Ron Raphael, please do. Reach down and reach out. I'll always be here. I'm easy to contact. You'll find you can literally search my name, Ron Raphael, and contact information will come up across the board on the internet. Not just for what I do with YouTube, but everything else that I've done in life. I'm accessible. So, paucity, there's nothing for us, man. The numbers are dismal, sad to say. Getting out of here, I'd like to talk to someone that, or have us listen to someone that has dedicated a portion of his life to black men and mental health, and basically wearing a suit of armor and shooting down all the dispelled stereotypes about black men, the dispelled and the undispelled. And it doesn't matter what we say or what we do or how many lies we put down, they will be perpetuated because everyone stands against us, including our women. And they don't know it, but the system is devised for them to do so. And they thrive well in this system is because they adhere to all the principles of it, including how they treat black men. But this gentleman is named Medium Man on YouTube. And he's pretty funny sometimes, but he's also talking about mental health. And so I wanted to share some of his channel before I get up out of here with you guys. And why, he's important is because he's a place where we can go. As I said before, black men need to go somewhere, and the manosphere is one of those places. And the reason why there's hell on the manosphere is because the whole society is against us. Even our own women are hating the manosphere. The manospheres came to fruition because of black men needing to talk to each other and finding a place that we can do it globally on this format, on this content format, which is YouTube and other content creating situations. But soon as we got our stuff together and we started talking, here comes the ops. They want to see what we're talking about, and they want to break this shit up. And that's what the manosphere is about. And there are aspects to it. His portion of it is to share with black men some information that will help them through the lies that are being told about us. So here's some information on mental health. He's talking about the numbers and the concerns of black women supposedly receiving and going to counseling and doing so much more to improve and make themselves ready for relationships, and black men somehow do not. In this clip here, he's dispelling that myth. And here we go.
Here. All right. So let's get to some of these stats for the mental health stuff. I have two segments that I want to cover here, but this is just for you, your own personal awareness. For anybody that had any issues about black mental health, I'm doing this for you guys. This is not to put in the face of anybody, but I want you guys to have the information for yourselves. So here we go. Real quick, guys, take a look at this. So black mental health, this is what you need to know according to McLean Hospital by way of Mass General Brigham, which is honored to have 5 nationally recognized hospitals based on U.S. News and World Report Best Hospitals for 2023. So this information is very accurate. If you want to do your research on McLean Hospital, please do so. Very respected. Okay? Sal, see that? Only 2% of U.S. psychologists are black. Only 25% of black people seek mental health treatment when needed, compared to 40% of white people. So I want to stop there for a second, because I know we hear in these black conversations that black women are the ones that's going to therapy and black men need to invest in therapy, so on and so forth. 1 out of 4. And if you split that in half, the last time that I looked at this information in 2021, they said that 25%, I believe it was 14% women and 11% men, black men that seek therapy. So there's no huge difference of just all these black women are going to therapy and black men need to get help so they can be better for relationships with black women. No, it's 25%, 1 out of 4. Okay. Why I gotta be the guy to spoil everybody's fun? Why I gotta be the one to burst
This
the
is
bubble
fair
of the
use.
black community?
Fair use, by the way. I didn't mention that. Fair use on the usage of his clip. He uses other people's clips as well, but I have to do my due diligence as a
By
professional.
making sure that you guys know the truth. They should know this stuff instead of lying on black men. It's crazy. But there you go. Oh, man. So black Americans develop mental health conditions at a rate equal to every other racial group. That's another key point. Black people in some communities have higher rates of PTSD, 8.7%, compared to white people at 7.4%. Studies also show that African American youth are at risk of developing PTSD. Nearly 65% of African American youth report traumatic experiences, compared to 30% of their peers from other ethnic groups. Nearly 10% of black people in the U.S. do not have health insurance, compared to 5.2% of non-Hispanic white people. So, for the 10% number, I often hear this excuse of, well, mental health it's expensive, but it's literally only 10% of black people that don't have, medical coverage. So either you can get that rate cut in half or some percentage of it taken off, but we do have the resources to go seek therapy. So if you need help, it's really no excuse. Fighting demons and all that foolery and